Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a startup entrepreneur from India, Jyoti Bhardwaj. Jyoti, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank,
I'm looking forward to an engaging, delightful conversation with you. And thank you so much again for having me
thank
on the
you.
show.
Thank you. Jyoti is the founder of TeaFit, an award-winning unsweetened beverage brand. And I must say, I have ordered it and I've tried it and I love the product.
Thank you
Uh,
so much. Thank
Jyoti
you.
is also a decent photographer in her own words and an avid reader. So, Jyoti, let's talk about TeaFit. Tell me about this venture and what was your motivation to start it?
So the story kind of is a little, it kind of goes back to when I was a kid.
Hmm,
Both my parents were
hmm,
diabetic.
hmm,
And while growing up, there was nothing that we ever bought from a store that we could kind of drink at home.
hmm,
And it was just mostly water or homemade stuff.
hmm,
And back in 2013, 14, and 15, I was in Japan. I
hmm,
spent a couple of years in Tokyo.
hmm,
And just the maturity of the category itself, like how
hmm,
evolved unsweetened beverages as a category was in a market like Japan,
hmm,
completely opened my eyes to possibilities, like what
hmm.
is possible. Because by then in Indian FMCG shelves, we were only seeing cola or like fruit-based products, which
Correct.
we all know, the
Hmm,
devil is in the details, or upcoming category of energy drinks. But there was nothing that anybody was kind of remotely trying to work on, which could be not just less bad for you but good for you.
hmm,
And I have to like give 100% credit to Japanese
hmm,
brands for introducing me to what's possible. I came back with that seed back in 2015 to India. um, a lot of liabilities, expensive MBA education, all of that kind of got covered. And
hmm,
then 2019, I was like, I'm majorly done with all my responsibilities.
hmm,
And if this is not the time, I'll never find a right time. So then I made jump. I was very happy in my corporate career. I was doing well. I studied from a great business school. So I had all the check boxes going, but
hmm.
I had that bug that if I don't do it, then who will? Like, I don't have too many liabilities or obligations from family side. I am a first generation entrepreneur. So there was a big risk because it was just going
Yeah,
into the great unknown. But I mean, that's that's what it was.
wonderful. And you did talk about what you learned from the Japanese, but why tea?
Tea, because there is so much that you can do with tea. I
Hmm,
mean, tea is like what to people who drink alcohol, probably what champagne is.
hmm,
You could really elevate tea into something that could provide a base for a lot of like developing a lot of healthier options.
hmm.
So also tea requires very less familiarity for us Indians. Like,
Okay.
we are the biggest producers and consumers of tea.
Hmm,
And the only form of tea that was available was either like a really sugary Lipton iced tea.
hmm,
Credit to them, I think they're working on a stevia line to reduce sugar in their products. But there was hardly anything tea about it. I mean, and then other than that, there was just milk tea, which is available on like all the chai stalls that you
correct.
find. And we were
Hmm,
like, how is it that we have not tried to imagine something else with tea? And
hmm,
why is it only Japanese, Koreans, and other East Asian countries? So
hmm,
that's kind of where it came from. I was very sure that I don't want to do something in fruit,
hmm,
because I don't believe in honestly drinking juices. I mean, if you want to eat fruit, then consume food by eating rather than
hmm.
juicing. So
Sure.
that was a no-go for us. And similarly, colas as a category, we were like antithetic to
Hmm,
what colas and energy drinks were. And tea felt like it was great platform to create healthy beverages. So yeah.
hmm. Very interesting. Okay. And how large is the market for sugar-free beverages in our country?
Honestly, I would say it's large enough for how small I am. That's how
Okay.
I look at the
Okay,
market.
well
And I
said.
also look at that. No, there are two brands, honestly, Ashutosh,
Mm.
right now. There's Brew House, and that's us, and then there's us. We are
Mm.
1 year old in this space,
Mm.
and there are literally just two brands, the Indian made in
Yeah.
India brands that
Mm.
are creating iced teas. So
Mm.
if you look at it from that perspective, sky is the limit for any new brand. Like I
Absolutely.
encourage so many youngsters who come to me whether I say you should absolutely start look at how much gap there is from, and just look at individual consumption. We drink about 4 to 5 liter of a soft drink per
Mm.
year, and it's not even 1/10 of a country like
Correct.
US or other developed countries.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, uh, also we are economically, we are where US was probably a few decades ago.
Mm.
And in terms of just customers today, at least upwardly mobile customers looking for alternatives, I mean, they don't want to use brands that their parents used. They
Mm.
want to use and find brands that they have discovered themselves,
Mm.
that align with their value systems,
Mm.
that are not just fulfilling a need, but fulfilling a need for positioning of the human, of the person themselves as a brand. So
Mm.
I feel it's a great time for to tell a story, to come up with products that have a story behind them, because there is a customer niche that
Mm.
is out there. I also generally feel that it's time for like mass market brands, like one product for everybody, like a Colgate or a
Mm.
Parachute. I feel those days are over,
Mm.
but there are customer pockets that you can discover. If you're a new brand trying to target, that's why we choose to stay in the unsweetened space, even though we would probably do higher sales if we made sugary drinks.
Yeah.
So
Well
yeah,
said. Well said. And Jyoti, when I was reading about you, you also say that you're using technology.
yes,
Um,
yes.
Tell me, how are you using technology to create a differentiation for TeaFit as compared to
Right.
others?
So there are two ways. Our formulation itself is a blend of 15 herbs,
Mm-hmm.
and typically, if you pick up any product with herb in it, the first thing is that it will taste bitter.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where a lot of our innovation went in, as to how to create a blend and uh, have all the benefits of the actives yet not have the bitterness. So
Mm.
we have our own process of extraction
Mm.
of the blend, and therefore in none of our products you'll find any bitterness, even though there's a large blend of botanicals.
Mm-hmm.
That's one. Second, brewing from real ingredients didn't exist in India. At least to the facilities that I went to, they didn't have like a ready manual of how to do it.
Mm.
Packaging for fruit-based beverages was there, colas was there, all of that was there. But how do you brew something with like hundreds of kgs of like chai patti or barley and things like
Correct.
that, right?
Mm.
So that didn't exist. So we had to do a lot of iteration from the ground up as to how would you brew 10,000 liters of tea, what kind of tea bags would you need,
Mm.
would you need, and we didn't want to use any non-sustainable material, so that kind of makes life a little bit more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
That's a second place. So we kind of own the IP right now of the process of how to brew tea at scale in India.
Mm-hmm.
Then the third is we use a German filling technology, which you typically use in wine and champagne in US and Europe.
Yeah.
And that's the tech that we fill to prevent the delicate flavors from escaping the beverage. So
Mm.
yeah, this is. I hope
Mm.
this kind of
No, it
answers.
answered my question. And
Yeah.
yet, I was wondering that from the big players, iced lemon tea has always been an offering.
Right, right.
Right. How are you disrupting this category?
With all due respect to all the people who make lemon iced tea,
Mm-hmm.
there is no tea in it. There are
Oh,
probably extracts of tea,
okay.
there are flavors of teas, there are
Okay.
oils of teas, but there's no
Mm.
real tea.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I feel that that's one place where we are clearly differentiated, is we use fine quality tea leaves. There are
Mm.
no extracts in our drinks.
Mm.
Uh, Also, the formulation of TeaFit itself has a blend of botanicals which is completely proprietary to
Mm.
us. In fact, on this podcast, I would wager a risk, and I would say that if you drink our green tea, no matter how heavy a meal you've had,
Mm.
you are bound to feel light with a nice big burp. So
Okay.
I'm kind of going, on line to
Wow.
kind of say
Okay.
this. So
Mm.
we are very confident in the products that we've built. We have given it the time that products of this disruptive nature deserve. For us, it wasn't that I am yet another beverage company. We wanted to build products that any like you put in shelves in Spain, in Japan, in Germany, wherever you put it, it could be globally palatable. It would be rooted in Indian ingredients, and process would be completely our own. So on those three fronts, we have a winner of product which is uncopyable. So that's something that you will drink when you drink TeaFit. It doesn't remind you of anything. It doesn't remind you of any of the other lemon iced teas you've had. And so our product is a complete original. Also, all our products are unsweetened. We have not tried to mimic the sweetness of sugar through like a stevia or an aspartame. We kind of wanted to challenge the notion that every time you're thirsty, the idea that you need something sweet, that itself is misplaced. I mean, you need hydration, you need flavor, but you don't necessarily need sugar. So that again is our niche that we play in the unsweetened space.
Yeah. And I can certainly, from my very limited trial, endorse what you are saying in terms of not needing the flavors, but fantastic. And Jyoti, you also come in multiple flavors, isn't it?
Right.
So tell me a little bit about what has gone into building TeaFit with not just one flavor, but multiple flavors.
So the mother drink, as I call it, or the OG of TeaFit, was the barley tea that I consumed a lot during my time in Japan. There used to be a couple of brands. One was owned ironically by Cook. So they would make like phenomenally flavorful barley tea, very light, no sugar, no sweetener. You couldn't just stop drinking. And so I knew that if I get into this space, that's the first drink I'm going to make, at least attempt to make. But I was clueless about what even barley looks like. So that's the level of learning that we've had to have. And so that's the first drink we made. Other than that, green tea was it was a no-brainer. We wanted to launch a real brewed green tea to let people know what an actually brewed green tea in a bottle should taste like. Like you deserve better than what you are kind of having right now, and not just a little bit better, completely different experience. So green tea and black tea is something that we're very familiar with as Indian customers. We're very used to the nimbu chai, and so if you drink our tea, it's a lot less than a typical lemon iced tea, and a lot more than the Indian nimbu chai. So these were the three that we kind of wanted to go with. We also wanted to keep it a tight assortment of three and not do like a launch of 10 products. And as a bootstrap brand, we would iterate at a small scale. We would launch products at a small scale, and if it works, we kind of double down on it. But you will never find us launching like 10 products in one go. That's kind of not the DNA so far in the company. So yeah.
Fantastic. And your response gives me the segue to my next question, which is what goes into building a beverage brand like TeaFit?
So when I started out, honestly, Ashutosh, I used to think you need millions of dollars to even make a dent in the space. Like forget about a dent, to even be noticed that, okay, you also exist. And so my idea was that, okay, I will create a proof of concept. I'll go to investors. I'll raise a lot of money. And that's the pathway that I had imagined. But as I kind of started from the product side first, I fell in love with the creation aspect of the brand. And my learning in the last 2.5 years in the business, and this is our second year on shelves, is that if you truly have a differentiated product, like if you have spent time more on developing the product and kind of addressing a gap that exists, I think that to me has a winner written all over it. Like if you can take that and if you can execute it well with your like head in the sand, then you will be able to create space for yourself. But if it's a generic product you're building, like if you're building yet another mango brand, or if you're building yet another energy drink, or so there's nothing that's truly like differentiated about your product, it's a lot harder. And then it becomes that, okay, I need to raise kind of next round and next round. But I would, to anybody kind of wanting to attempt this, I would say either you have like really deep pockets or ability to raise large funds if you want to be in this space, or you truly have a great set of products with your why, like why are you doing what you're doing, why is it differentiated, and kind of really evangelizing your brand. So I feel like these are the two ways
Mm.
uh, that you could really
Very interesting. And yet, from whatever I have seen and consumed of tea brands, whether it's in Japan or Korea or Singapore, my memory serves me to say that they're predominantly Tetra packs.
that is true. That
And
is
you
true.
have used, I don't know if the right word is plastic bottle because you said it's environmentally friendly.
Right,
But
right.
why this difference?
So a so a lot of there are a lot of variables that go into production
Hmm.
decisions. One is availability of lines of Tetra packs.
Hmm.
Like not every manufacturer will have a Tetra pack line.
Okay.
It's limited.
Mm-hmm.
B, if they have a Tetra pack line, do you have enough MOQs to be able to hammer out an agreement with them?
Hmm.
Uh, Third would be like what's the proximity to your location. Fourth, environmental footprint. All of these things are variables that go into considering a particular kind of packaging. For a Tetra pack, we didn't honestly explore much because a product is not visible. We wanted the product to have some kind of visibility, and second, we didn't find any workable arrangements with the Tetra Pak line in and around Mumbai.
Hmm.
So I never say never. Maybe we will do a line in
Yeah.
Tetra Pak
Yeah.
going forward.
Mm-hmm.
But we did discuss between can and what we currently use is PET, which is grade one plastic, which is the highest form of like recyclable
Yeah.
plastic, and
Yeah.
glass.
Hmm.
There is a lot of, and this is a whole like elaborate discussion that I would love to have. But glass is understood to have a lower footprint thanks to social media,
Correct.
thanks also to like a lot of optics around it, that
Mm.
it doesn't look plastic.
Mm.
But weight to weight, if you like gram to
Yeah.
gram, if you look at glass bottles, it's extremely expensive, not just on the pocket of the promoter but also on the environment. Like our production facilities in Indore, if I have to transfer all my production to glass, then I would need like 7 to 8 times emission just to transport it to my
Okay.
warehouse here
Correct.
in Mumbai. So there are far like layered
Mm.
questions to be answered. Given the parameters, we took the best call that we have. It's a continuously evolving
Absolutely.
process. So maybe at
Absolutely.
scale, we will do can or
Absolutely.
yeah.
No, no, well said. Well said. I think that's a great response that you've given me. Um, my next question is that what are plans after TFIT, or is it too early for you to talk about?
It's too early. There's no after TFIT, not in the foreseeable future. I'm in the
Okay.
middle of like, for me, it's like day one every day right now. So I'm not thinking anything what's after this. But definitely growing TFIT is something that I barely scratch the surface. I think LinkedIn is a very closed world where if
Mm.
you are a little popular, people think you are probably by extension a really popular brand outside. But I have no such misunderstanding. I'm a
Yeah.
very small spec in the FMCG space, and
Mm.
there's a lot of ground to be covered. We
Mm.
continuously look for newer avenues to find distribution in. So for
Mm.
me, there are two kind of focus areas right now. One is to build distribution
Mm.
in offline, while online is great. It's not the simplest model for shipping liquids.
Mm.
Logistic costs are very high, and again, that's not very environment friendly, like shipping from here to
Yeah.
let's say Sikkim or Kanyakumari and places like that.
Mm.
So we are looking for setting up distribution,
Mm.
and secondly, we are working on unsweetened product range for winter time, and that's like currently all our focus is on that. So we look to launch that in the next month or so,
Mm.
and we're working on products for summer of 2023, which is in glass bottles. You would be happy to know.
Wow. Okay.
So we are also being small allows you a lot of leeway to experiment and iterate to see what works, what doesn't. If
Mm.
I was a Pepsi, I wouldn't be able to do that. But because I'm a TFIT, I can launch us at small scale in glass and see how the model works, or
Yeah.
maybe do can and see how that works.
Yeah.
So
And also
some of
take
it,
decisions much faster than some of the big
absolutely,
companies.
absolutely. So
Very well
those are
said.
the things currently ahead of us.
Very well said. So I've got time for two more questions.
Okay.
Uh, my next question takes me back to your stint in Japan, and Japan is known for some of its amazing management practices.
Right.
What have been some of your learnings from your stint in Japan that you have brought back to TFIT?
just the discipline and organization.
Mm,
So I just feel like there is a lot of busyness in the way we work in India,
mm,
which is
mm,
become compounded since I started up, because like when you're the owner of a small company, everything kind of comes through you,
mm,
and so
mm,
you feel like you're overworked. But I do maintain that we are probably just over busy. But Japanese don't work like that. They work in a very organized fashion,
mm.
and they might work extremely excruciatingly long hours, but they don't work in a haphazard fashion like we do. Like if I'm in the middle of a conversation, if I get a call, I'll pick it up.
Yeah.
They don't work like that. So they are very organized people. Second,
Mm,
extremely polite people.
mm,
So it's a pleasure to connect with them. It might be a little standoffish, but if you get to know, I just find them extremely polite, extremely pleasant. I find that missing a lot. I feel like a lot of startup founders, including myself, maybe could learn to be a lot more polite in our conduct.
correct.
So these are some of the things. Also, third, they are not afraid to be different. That I have learned from Japanese. That
Mm,
you will go there, you will find Kit Kat in all kinds of salty, savory flavors that you
mm,
would not have in India. Like you would wonder why does a chocolate have this weird flavor, or
mm.
mango soup flavor, or things like that.
Yeah.
So they take complete risks. Like when you look at them, or you have a conversation with them, you think they're very simple, gentle people. But when you look at the products that they create, some of them are completely
Amazing. Yeah.
amazing and yeah, differentiated. So they're not
Yep. Yep.
afraid to create something that is different, that is to the palate, and that may or may not work for you, an outsider. So I
Mm.
feel we Indians, again, we have a unique palate, and we should not be afraid to tap into that.
Well said. Well said. And my last question, you, Jyoti, and this is for the many, many people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your incredible journey of building TeaFit, and you said you're in your second year of on
Correct.
shelf, what would you say are three lessons as an entrepreneur, as a marketer, as a founder, as a developer of something very unique? What are three lessons you would want our viewers and listeners to take away?
I feel I'm too young in this space to kind of
Hmm.
impart any
Okay.
lessons, but what I could say, what worked for me was just not being afraid to like ask people for help. I think
Hmm.
that's the number one and the most underrated
Yeah.
quality. Like most people think founders are means you should know everything and you are
Mm,
the person that everybody should look to for answers.
mm,
I just think that's really overrated.
mm,
I feel like if you go from a position of vulnerability, that okay, I don't know this, but I need to find answers, I
mm.
feel like you will have a lot more people coming to help you than if you put that pressure on you that somehow you need to have all the answers. You kind of
Correct.
don't. I
Mm,
also feel the most like one of the more under appreciated qualities of a founder is your ability to get the right people to work
mm,
with you
mm,
for and to kind of get them on board the vision that you have.
mm, mm,
So having a good team around you, good sounding board is very, very important.
mm.
Mentors from the same industry, like it might look like we're a small team and we've all done it by ourselves,
Yeah.
but that's not true. You
Mm,
need mentors, and so go and like pester them with requests until they agree, but find
yeah. Yeah.
find the right mentors for you before
Yeah.
you start pestering them.
Mm, mm,
And these two things. And third, like just stay alive in the
yeah.
business. It's very kind of difficult road, and there'll be thousands of reasons to kind of say I'm done. My cash flows are not working, my product
Mm,
sucks, my packaging is not appreciated. I was not able to raise my funds, and COVID hurt. All of those things. I just feel survival again is highly underrated in business. 2 3 years, if you're able to just barely survive,
mm,
a lot of things happen by themselves. Like a contact you made 2 years ago might come back and say, we have this
correct.
opening, why don't you
Mm,
fulfill this for our stores? So I just feel just staying alive will open a lot of opportunities. You will realize you don't have to chase them as much as you had to in your early days,
mm,
in your probably third or fourth year. But as a founder, go out, be the biggest evangelist of your brand, even if it is deeply uncomfortable for you. It's not something that comes very naturally to me either. I'm an introvert by nature. But I know what it can do. You just speaking about your brand, finding avenues to participate, to be vocal about it. I think these some of the basics, but it's the basics that are kind of most difficult to do consistently. You think you'll find a silver bullet that is solved, but it's not. It's never the case. It's
Wonderful.
always the basics. So,
Wonderful. Jyoti, on that note, and your three wonderful learnings, I won't use lessons since you didn't want to use it. Ask for help, find the right mentors, stay alive. Thank you so much for speaking to me. Thank you for talking to me about TeaFit and your experiences in building this amazing brand, which seems to be catching the fancy of a lot of people, a lot of young people. And as I mentioned, I have tried it. Thank you also for talking to me about what you just told us, that TeaFit could be the antidote for a heavy meal, and I'm going to try this out again if I've had a heavy meal. So I will
sure.
certainly make sure I try it out.
That's
But
it.
thank you for speaking to me. Wish you lots of success with TeaFit, and good luck with everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a complete, absolute pleasure talking to you. It allowed me moments to reflect on my journey, which I don't get too many opportunities to, because
Mm,
it's always, like I said, busy day,
mm.
So it was a good half an hour for me to also reflect on what I may have learned. You had some very insightful questions that allowed me the space to do that. I hope this conversation was useful for you, for your listeners, and I'm
Absolutely.
so thrilled that you invited me.
Absolutely. It was. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.